I have no control. Whose truck was Thank you so much. Appreciate
Her sister. Josh probably did.
I should say that.
Yeah.
Like Anthony's not here. You still have to the only day he had it on the board.
It's getting there, but up us is quite. Well, they're, you know.
Yes, thank you very much.
Stay where you're at. And you go in the nursing home, they don't take it all with you.
Driver's license, mail.
Okay.
Sheriff's Department.
Well, you know, it's a personal thing, you know, you gotta evaluate your own situation.
Eventually I'll bring it back.
Good evening. The meeting is scheduled to start at 6:30. Given the limited parking that's out there, we're going to wait a couple more minutes. So if there's other people that are wanting to get here right on time, they might be having a little bit of a delay in getting parking and walking in. So if you could bear with us, we're going to probably take 5 minutes to delay the start of the meeting. Thank you.
Limitations, you have to stop, have to stop driving, you need to consider.
Rapid transit doesn't come, it's 3 miles away. And then I stopped going downtown because, if you took the bus downtown, you still had, it's not wet. Yeah, because they got all the parking.
For sure. It's very difficult.
I was gonna say about, when I was still going down to Fifth Third, stuff like that. Because of the inflation, it's now $1 year, it cost me $27. Just how it works. And they got cash with it.
Squeezing everybody. Other than Lake Creek.
I stopped running a few years ago. I used to get on. See friends.
Right now.
I even stopped running. And I also was going to take his tolls on stage 4.
She orders
Okay, that was good.
It's gonna be here till you get home.
Hopefully everyone's going to be able to make it in a timely fashion, but we'll go forward. The first item on the agenda is a review of the minutes from the July 16, 2025 meeting. Commissioners, you've had a chance to take a look at the proposed minutes. Do you have a motion to accept it as submitted? Okay.
Gentlemen, I'll support.
Okay, motion by Joe, supported by Jacob to approve the minutes from July 16. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. At this point, this is an opportunity for general public comment. We have several projects that are going to be under review this evening. You have an opportunity to provide comment. As it turns out, the first one for 3285 Northridge is going to be postponed to the September 3 meeting. But aside from that, if you have some general comments that you wish to share with the city at this point, with the planning commission, this is an opportunity to step forward. Have up to 3 minutes to provide your comments. Any takers on general public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into our first project now, now that being 25-009, this is a public hearing for the property at 4715 Riverbend. And to introduce this project is Planning Director Paula Prevey.
Thank you, Chair. I will pull up my staff report on the screen so that folks can see where we're talking about here. This is a two-part request of the Planning Commission. It is both a rezoning and a site condominium review for a residential development featuring 27 residential lots for single-family homes with public water and private septic on a new street. This might be familiar to some of the board, although I do know we have some new members here. There was a project proposed for this site in 2016. It had 34 smaller lots. And at that time, it did not move forward. There were concerns, particularly from the health department.
Yeah.
And the project before us tonight has 7 fewer lots. It's 27 lots. All of the lots are larger. They meet the standards for the requested zone district, and they do have provisional approval from the health department for the project because the Kent County Health Department reviews septic permits, and so they had to be consulted. And I'm sure we will hear a little bit more about that. The site is currently zoned AA agricultural, and the request is to rezone to SA suburban residential single family. We are here in South Walker, just north of Riverbend and adjacent to Ottawa County and Talmadge Township. One of the things we look at for a rezoning request is the city's master plan. What you see on the screen here is an excerpt from the community character map for the South Walker book of our master plan. It's designated, the site is designated neighborhood preservation in our master plan. And that is characterized by existing residential areas that are fully or nearly built out and have existing character that is highly valued by residents. Undeveloped land within this designation should be developed with a similar character and density to the surrounding homes according to our master plan. And SA is one of the districts that is a good fit, is recommended in our master plan for neighborhood preservation designated properties. And my the current zoning is AA agricultural, and that is, as is everything here in this lighter green color. The neighborhood immediately to the north and the neighborhood to the south are both zoned S, which is our single-family residential district, and it's very slightly different from the SA district in terms of minimum lot size and width, but otherwise it's very, very similar. And I propose a list of questions for the planning commission to consider when looking at a rezoning request in my report, and the board is encouraged to talk through those. Compatibility or consistency with the master plan, compatibility with the existing surrounding area, development trends in the area, etc. The second component of this review is a preliminary site condo review. And site condo is a way to divide land. So when you would drive through a site condominium, it looks like a platted development, single-family lots. There are ones that are in, they call it limited ownership, which is essentially your property, and if you were to own a house there. And then there's also some common property within the condominium development. In this case, it would be a stormwater pond, some things like that. Sometimes there's a small park or other things that are part of the condominium association. There would be an HOA or condominium board that would take care of those common elements. I just wanted to get that out there. There's some confusion. I know this is not a traditional condo being proposed. It is looks like single-family lots, and they would be standalone detached single-family homes. In the city of Walker, the zoning ordinance outlines procedures for site condominium projects in section 18.10D of the zoning ordinance. The planning commission does an initial review and public hearing and makes a recommendation to the city commission, who does an additional review and makes a final decision. So both of the elements of this project are recommendations from the planning commission to the city commission, both the rezoning and the site condominium request. The applicant met with the staff site plan review committee in late June, who's provided feedback on the submittal. Everything that you normally hear about from me, planning, zoning, other miscellaneous related topics, have all been met within the plan set. So I really just have one thing for the board, additional consideration. That's just kind of a notice that it's about the land division here. We have two different types of land division processes in this proposal. Everything you can see colored in with the yellow and green would be part of the site condominium. There are 3 additional lots that are not part of the site condominium, and so those would be standard straight land divisions, and then the 4th large parcel would be subdivided through the site condominium project, and the other 3 lots would not be part of the condominium association, because they would not share in the common ownership of the stormwater pond. And really, that's all that I have for you regarding this. I'm happy to answer questions that we're going to have.
Did you say where the cornfield is what we're talking about as a general rule?
Yes. Yes, that is exactly what we're talking about in my report here. This is what the property, this is an aerial, the base map here that we're looking at is imagery from 2023. And so we something like that. The cornfield is the area that we're talking about. You can see to the north of the cornfield here, there is an existing stub for Fleetwood, and that is the new street that would be proposed to wend through the development here. The new street would continue from that stub off Fenwood, come down through and connect across from Mulker. I'm not sure exactly what's pronounced there.
This does not have sewer, but it has public water, is that correct?
That is correct. There is public water in the existing area, and all of the new lots would be connected to public water. They would each have their own private septic system.
Thank you.
Paul, can you speak to this stub road here? Its existence makes me think there may have been an original plan to develop this. What's the source of that?
The suburb makes me think the same. I did not actually pull the original plans from the development, so I can't directly state whether, the similar number of lots or, design is original. But the suburb does indicate that it was planned initially for future residential development.
And do you happen to know when all these houses that border this were built?
I do not, but I can look that up for you.
I'm sure.
We'll find out.
Yeah, I think we'll find out too.
Paul, just two quick ones. The difference between SA and S, you said the adjacent properties were S, and this is proposed to be SA?
That is correct. Traditionally, like in our zoning ordinance, the real differences are very minimal. In section 7.01 of the zoning ordinance, that's a table of regulations. The S district has slightly larger minimum lot sizes. They're 125 minimum feet in width, 25,000 square feet area. That larger lot size is because the S district, suburban residential, is intended for areas where there is neither public water nor public sewer available. The SA district has a minimum lot size of 90 feet in width and 11,880 square feet in area. And that smaller lot size is because the SA district is intended for when there is either public water or sewer available, but not both. And then the A district is another kind of standard single-family district, and that's intended for when there's both public water and sewer. They're not always used that way across the city, but that is the intent of each different district and why we have so many different single-family districts that are very similar.
Thank you. And then my second question is, this is a proposed public street, not a private street. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and what goes into that consideration?
I will let the applicant speak more to their choice.
Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners?
I have a follow-up to Rob's question. With respect to the current AA agricultural zoning, what are the minimums on that?
It is 180 feet of frontage with a note in the ordinance that that's intended for when utilities become available. The lot could be subdivided into 2 lots, and then it is a minimum lot size of 1 acre. So if it were to be subdivided under the current zoning, you would get significantly fewer lots because of the minimum lot size there.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other questions, we have Scott Connors, city engineer, to provide his report.
Yeah, Paul did a really good job with the introduction there. I was here back in 2016, so if there's questions that are historical or something, I can try to help with those as well. As Joe noted, there is no sewer here, but there's proposed public water main. The water main was run down here about 15 years ago and is stubbed somewhere near just west of Ferndale in Fenwick. So they would be connecting on that and looking through their system down to Riverbend, where we also have water main. But again, no sewer proposed. Point out maybe that this is still the first review, so our technical comments are kind of preliminary, but we can kind of forecast what's going to happen with public hearings and lots of questions about drainage. So I think we did dive in a little bit deeper on the drainage. We've got a couple comments there. As it relates to the Kent County Health Department and their tentative approval for the drain field locations, you'll notice on one of the sheets that it calls out a primary and a secondary drain field area. That's pretty common, and especially in an area like this where the soils may not be great, it gives them the chance to put in a second drain field if the first one fails in 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So there's another place without having to do like a raised mound or something really expensive. So that's a good practice. I think what we want to do is circle back to the health department and make sure that they look at the drainage design out here too, because those two things are really important to work together. If there's a lot of standing water, if there's a lot of high water level that's introduced, that can impact the drain fields, so we want to make sure that they get a second chance to review that. On the north side of the site, there's a retaining wall north of our proposed lot 24 that looks like it's going to block some water. That would be at 4648 Fenwood. We certainly want to make sure that there's no trapped water with whatever happens on this site. So that would have to be taken into consideration. More than likely, they'll end up with a temporary grading easement so they can move the water to the east and make sure that it's not trapped. Lot 14 looks like it has a very flat grade around the 672 contour. Similarly here, we want to make sure that that water gets out of there. We don't want that to sit on the drain field areas. That's very bad for the drain fields and for everybody around it. So most likely there'll be a private drainage easement and some modifications there. When it comes to the transportation network, the project has two 90-degree bends, and it is proposed as public road, even though it comes in as a site condo. We've done this several times, and it introduces a couple more steps on the engineering side, but it reduces the steps by one from a planning side. So some developers choose to do this because they think that might save some money and some time in the long run. But relative to the 90-degree bends, that's something that we typically don't want to see. It's not an absolute that you can't do them, but we don't like the fact that you'll get heavy braking coming in, heavy accelerating coming out. It's almost like putting speed bumps in, where the people that are buying speed bumps oftentimes hate it. So we try to discourage that. I think it's important for you to look at this and understand that there's probably going to be future no parking restrictions if this layout was approved at both corners. So what that does is it limits the parking area on the street quite a bit for probably 10 lots in there. And that's an important part of a single-family residential neighborhood. If any of you have had kids of the driving age, I'm sorry. And yeah, it's kind of tough to fit everything in there. So we do have a detail in our standard details. So that if this is the absolute last resort, here's how we want to see it done. What that does is it widens the curve out on both ends so that we can still get two vehicles past each other safely. And that's important, more important than ever these days with the Amazon trucks and the UPS trucks, and that stuff has just increased dramatically. So we want to make sure that if you like this layout, that we would have that detail. Now that doesn't mean that the city engineer is endorsing it. Again, we've thrown out our cautions, and I think it's in your hands now. The detention pond is a little bit unique in that it doesn't really have an overland spillway if it happens to fail, which is pretty typical with what we want to see. And in a case like this, they, in some places in Kent County drainage commissioners involved, they're allowed to double the volume to make up for the lack of the overland spillway. What that does is the high water level gets pretty high, so we're going to want to have them look downstream at some of those houses and take into consideration what we would call minimum building openings. So if there's doors or windows on the back of the house, we want to know what the grades are in those backyards. We want to know what the elevation of those are. We want to make sure that if it gets really bad and something happens and the beach falls stuck in the storm sewer, that those homes are not going to be impacted by that. There would be some overland flow route. So there's a little bit more work to do there. That's pretty common. We would look for that in the next step. For lots 10 and 23, with those being on these bends, it's important for us to point out early on that we're not going to want to see any driveways on the corners. Because we do get that occasionally where somebody comes in and they say, I sold this lot, and the only way it's going to work is if I put a driveway right up against the corner. So it's important for us to get that out there early. There needs to be a 60-foot separation for the driveways from that, what we'll call a virtual intersecting right-of-way from those corners. And then the last item we have is that the mail kiosk, we still want to see that pushed to a property line. Right now it's in the backyard for lot 10. Again, that creates, it's not the best road layout because you've got the two parking restrictions at the corners, if that works out that way. And then you've got parking on the street for the mail kiosk and in a busy little area. But at least we want to see that on the property line. So it's not just on one single frontage, it's shared. So that's a good preliminary list. And again, I'll be here for comments that are historical as well.
Thank you, Scott. Any commissioners, any questions of Scott? Okay.
Sorry. So about the hard corners, how do we weigh the feature of some amount of traffic calming that comes from that against the downsides there? Because before I read your comments on here, I saw that and thought, oh, that'll be good.
And that's why it's not an absolute from us that it just absolutely can't be done, because there are some benefits to it. But there's some drawbacks too. We want to be completely transparent about that. You know, in a perfect world, if that was a road, we grab it from each end and pull it a little bit tighter, and the curves would be more gentle in both directions, and you still get traffic coming. But there'd be a curve through there that you can still travel at a safe speed. This is a little bit more extreme, but it gives them more street frontage. More street frontage equals more lots to build on. And so I can see from a developer standpoint where they want to make that road as long as they can through there so they can get as many lots as they can.
And I know the topic is going to come up, and you didn't say anything about it, so I assume there's no issues. But will this detention pond, at least for the lots to the north and east, will also accommodate their water?
I would assume that it's not going to, but it's a good question for the developer, and this gets to the point where I probably don't want to answer too many more questions about the drainage until they talk, so that they can kind of plead their case on how that design is laid out. They've certainly spent way more time on it at this point than we have. Good, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. At this point in time, we ask the developer to come forward and make your presentation.
Good evening, I'm Rick Pulaski with Niederveld. We are the planner and engineer for Riverbend North. Appreciate everybody taking the time to listen to us tonight. I'm here with Dale Cracker and Jeff Clausen, part of the builders group. Dale and Jeff are from JTB Homes. I think many of you are familiar with what they do, and their quality and their good reputation, I think, is well known in the area. So they're here tonight as well to answer any questions. I want to hit the rezone question first. Of course, today being August 6th, we're actually less than a year now from basically your hot off the presses master plan, which was adopted in August of last year, August 12th last year, so we're less than a year old. And master plans, of course, are something that are rigorously vetted, rigorously granted input by citizens, stakeholders, shareholders, et cetera. And you saw to it after a very long process of that public input, of your experts giving input, that the master plan for this area would be an SA district. And so we're here asking to, in a sense, help fulfill the master plan that you have set out for the community and that the community has set out for themselves. So that's the rezone part of it. The second part of it is the actual roads and the lots. As was mentioned, we're looking to do a public road here. As far as the why, it makes a lot more sense when you have a public road that's already stubbed to the project, just continue that public road throughout the project. It is frankly a more expensive road than what your private roads would be. In fact, the public roads in the city of Walker, and this is not a bad thing, but the public roads in the city of Walker are the widest roads in all of Kent County, and they also have full concrete curbs as well. So it's certainly not from a trying to be less expensive standpoint. It's seeing what's there and seeing what's going to be best for the residents that are ultimately going to live here. So we are going with the more robust section. We are going with the full concrete curbs, et cetera, for the public road. In addition to you having the widest public roads, you also have standards in your construction design manual, your city specifications for these 90-degree turns, of which has been pointed out, we do have 2 of them. We will put appropriate signage up for those. So that's going to be one thing that helps people know that the slowdown is coming. But also, in addition to that wider road width that you already have, you also get wider at the intersection. So as Mr. Connors pointed out, if there needs to be a little bit more maneuvering capability between two vehicles, one going this way, one going that way, you have the ability to do so. And we feel confident about it from a design standpoint and putting these together. Many times over the years, these types of subdivisions, these types of neighborhoods, where people are actually grateful for the 90-degree turns rather than these long swooping curves that are frankly built for snowplows. And so we've got subdivisions all over the place that are built more with snowplows in mind than they are for the actual residents. And we think this is conducive to the residents, yes, and it meets the city standards also, yes. And so we can hit both of those. We are putting this together as a site condo. That means that all the detention and stormwater review is going to be in the hands of the city. Everything needs to meet the city requirements. If this was a plat, we might also be looking at drain commissioner requirements. Interestingly, their requirements as a standard actually only call for a 25-year storm for their detention basins. Now in the city, you're asking for a 100-year storm. Certainly no problem hitting that. But because we have pipe that's on our property that drains our property, but it's a pipe that's been there a long time, we want to make sure that what we're putting into it doesn't overtax that pipe. We're not just doing the 100-year storm, we're doing 2 consecutive 100-year storms that can hold. So it helps keep the water levels down, and I think it just is a good idea from the safety of everybody around there. I believe that's all I have to say. Certainly if you have any questions, we're here to answer them, and Dale and Jeff are here as well.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the developer?
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I guess I'm still struggling with the 90 degrees. Is it fair to assume that the reason you're doing it that way is so you can get the maximum number of lots on the parcel?
If we were looking for the maximum number of lots, I think we'd be going for a different type of system in terms of drain fields. Previously, we had 34, and we have 27 total now, 24 that are on this road. We just feel it's better for the neighborhood in general, frankly. And, it's an integral part of many of our designs. Yes,
90 degrees?
Yep, 90 degrees. It probably does, frankly, get you another lot or so. But it was more just part of the design of the community for what we felt was a good design for connectivity and also keeping slower speeds.
And then secondly, the 3 lots that are not going to be part of the site condo, why were they excluded?
They're excluded because the site condo is responsible for things like landscaping, open space areas, and so they're all contributing to those. These are more just that are lots on Riverbend or lots on Kennewa, so they don't need to be subject to those homeowners association requirements.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I'll offer a question. In the city engineer's memo, he had several bullets that he addressed, and many of them are there to make sure that the impact on the surrounding properties is minimized. Do you have any issues? Do you understand what city engineer is looking for?
A couple points there. Certainly no issues with that at all. We will work to resolve those issues. Mr. Connors has us put together a fairly detailed grading plan, but it's also a grading plan that we keep in mind, and he mentioned as well that it's something that's your first blush at it, your first time seeing it, his first time seeing it, public's first time seeing it. We know it's going to change. We know we're going to hear certain comments from whether it's Scott Connors, you, the public, neighbors, et cetera. And if something needs to change, we'll certainly make that change. You bet.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have a more specific question regarding the grading between lots 23 and 24, what's going on there, and why that could be smoothed out more. One of my concerns being drainage onto some of the existing neighboring properties, because it does seem to be a higher elevation there.
Yeah, to that point, Mr. Patton? Patton? At that point, yeah, I can see that as something that could certainly be brought down to closer to the level of 23 and not see that slope right there. You bet. Would you be willing to look at that and make that change?
And again, I'm not a transportation engineer, but I did have a question, I guess more so for Scott. And because you brought up a point about, because this is a city street, so snowplows will be going through, correct?
It's proposed as a city street.
Yeah, so if it does go forward being a city street, we do have city snowplows going through, can they make those turns to the 90 degrees?
They can, but it's very tight, you know. Rick pointed out that we need to design these around the plows. I guess I would disagree with that, but that is, that's a big concern at a corner like that. I think you also heard us talking about the future families that are going to live there and how they're going to park and how they're going to live around these corners. So it's not just the snow plows, it's the garbage trucks, it's the delivery trucks, it's all of the bigger trucks that you get in there. These days, if you order a new refrigerator, it's going to come in big trucks. So, these bends, these 90-degree bends are a little bit rough for all of those situations. Now, Naperville does design a lot of projects with these, but that doesn't mean that it's a long-term sustainable approach for a municipality. We're not looking for a developer's bottom dollar. We're looking for public health, safety, and welfare for the residents of the city of Walker. So we have different goals.
And that's why I asked, because it would be, if we went forward with it being a city street versus it being private. So, okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, following up on that, this is for staff too, did we get any sort of input from the fire department regarding, their trucks being able to maneuver their way through? Have they seen this or commented on this proposed layout?
They do see the plans. With the initial submission, plans get delivered to a bunch of departments across the city, including police department, fire department, DPW, engineering, the manager's office, zoning, et cetera. And then those are the folks around the table with the staff site plan review committee meeting. I don't recall any specific comments from the fire department related to the layout of the road.
And we were in a state of flux, I think, with that. We do have a new fire chief now. He's doing an outstanding job when it comes to these kinds of issues. And he's talking about the independent plan reviews taking place in the fire department. I know we've traded messages on 3 or 4 of these kinds of issues here in his first couple weeks. And I can tell you that this stuff will be scrutinized more in the future, which is probably a good thing.
Okay, any other questions, comments for the applicant? All right, at this point, thank you. This is an opportunity to set up, have the public hearing comment.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion by Scott, supported by Rob, to open the public hearing for the request. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. At this point, you and the audience have an opportunity to come forward and provide us your name and address, and give them 3 minutes to be able to share your comments with the commission.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is John Campbell. I live at 4565 Riverbend. I generally am not opposed to the development of the area, but I think there have been some mischaracterizations of what the master plan actually says and why this does not comply with that. This area, sub-area, is characterized as neighborhood preservation under the appropriate zoning districts of that. number one, keep current zoning, neighborhood preservation. It's also part of the existing density, future land use. This request, by definition, is quadrupling the density of what would be allowed on this. It goes against every concept that the neighborhood preservation characterized by existing residential neighborhoods that are fully built out and have an existing character that is highly valued by the residents. And this sub-area identifies in undeveloped land within the neighborhood preservation areas should be developed with a similar character or density or acquired by the city as new park space. There's nothing in the neighborhood preservation or the existing density future land use area that would have you increasing the density in this neighborhood. The areas of neighborhood preservation, even within that south subunit, are very small, and this is squarely right in the middle of one. So I don't see what the basis for quadrupling the density. Other major concern is traffic. Riverbend is horrible. You guys are sticking with a 3-minute limit on public comments on a public hearing?
Yes.
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 Okay. Okay, Riverbend is terrible. It is a neighborhood connector. It is supposed to have sidewalks. It is supposed to have tree-lined streets. And now we're going to double the number of houses that are served by it. Already a dangerous intersection at Wilson. Purpose of zoning is to have reasonable expectations. I bought a house. I thought I might eventually have a neighbor with a 1-acre lot. Now I've got 100 people co-owning a strip of land next to me. That's not a reasonable expectation. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dorothy Pater, and my address is 1483 Ferndale. And I think most of us in this neighborhood have already been established for many years. We've all been citizens of Walker. And so our biggest concern is the traffic, how much this is going to increase in our little streets and in our neighborhood, being that we have the school, the elementary, the high school, the church. It's just getting out of our subdivision onto Wilson. It's horrible.
Yeah.
We have to go down Kennewa to Fennessy to O'Brien to get out at a traffic light. And, you know, even if we were, I don't know if it's what they're gonna do as far as the traffic situation. Have they done any kind of a traffic control analysis before the subdivision is being taken care of?
We'll take your comments, and then, for example, that particular question, we asked both staff and the applicant to speak to it.
Because we do have a lot of kids in the whole neighborhood as it is, and just with all the cars and the traffic, I mean, and they don't go very slow down Kennewa either. I mean, I can hear them buzzing down from my house on Ferndale, the motorcycles and the crotch rockets or whatever, you know. It's unbelievable. And then to have all these other cars and people and kids in the neighborhood, are the schools going to be able to handle the influx of the kids? So those are my concerns, and I think mostly everybody else is on that same page, so. Thank you.
My name is Jonathan Inglesum. I live on 1310 Kennewa, a little bit out of the ghetto that they call, but close enough. I got 3 concerns: traffic, and kids.
And kids, yes.
I worked at Covenant Christian for 42 years. I know how many kids walk to school there, how many kids walk to school at Hope, a lot of neighborhood kids. Now they really have another school up at Riverbend in Kennewa. And I challenge anybody sitting up here tonight to go to Riverbend, where Fleetwood is going to meet Riverbend, And if you have a vehicle that's over 15 feet long, to make a turn onto River Bend without hitting somebody coming the other way. That, my wife and I bike a lot, that road is tight. If we get cars that are going down both ways, you're in the grass to avoid traffic. In my mind, we have 3 schools in the area. There is not 5 feet of sidewalk on any of those streets. Kenowa, Riverbend, Ferndale, and Fenwood. And until the city of Walker can figure out how we're gonna get kids safely down those streets with more traffic, I think that has to be done before you start thinking about putting lots in the Goodale property there. So I would say, please, for the sake of the children, I got 15 grandchildren that are in that area, and I know what it's like when they want to ride their bike to Grandpa's house. But River Bend is not built for another single bit of traffic. It just can't be. No. So I would encourage you, please, look at the sidewalk situation with the schools and the traffic patterns that are written. Thanks for your work.
Thank you. We do appreciate your comments as you come forward. Please refrain from clapping.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we won't clap.
Hi, Amy Campbell. I am a resident of 4565 Riverbend Drive. So that means our house will be surrounded by this property, sort of on both sides. Some of the concerns. First, I do want to say I'm not opposed to that field being developed in terms of more houses. I absolutely appreciate the need for more houses for families. I do, however, oppose the changing of the zoning from where we have fairly large lots with independent homeowners to something more of a subdivision. Our house was built in 1950. Most of the houses around that area are of similar age. So characteristics of the neighborhood is these are independent houses. We do not have an HOA. We do not have sort of the kind of similar landscaping rules. There are a couple of things that I do have concerns about. So Riverbend Drive, and this is in the city plan, is defined as a neighborhood connector. According to the city of Walker, neighborhood connectors should always have sidewalks with wide tree-lined buffer areas separating them from automobile lanes. There is no shoulder on Riverbend Drive. So, for example, I have 3 children. I have never allowed them to ride their bike on Riverbend because it is not safe. There's no shoulder. Viewing, for cars, it's unsafe. So when I think about we're going to be adding potentially 27 more homes using that road on a regular basis without having the requirements for a neighborhood connector as it is right now, I have some concerns. I also would just like to point out, and this may not be anything, but the developers, in typical situations like this, might reach out to neighbors in the surrounding areas to say, hey, we're thinking about this. What would be acceptable to you? What isn't? They have made no contact with any neighbors, have never asked or inquired. I realize that's not a requirement, but it seems like that's an act of good faith on part of a neighborhood that's been well established for a long time. I'm also concerned about the drainage pond that will be, and I don't know if it's a pond, but that will be in my backyard. That I think of mosquitoes, I think about safety with children in the area. And again, nobody's ever really reached out to us to see what would be acceptable. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Greetings, Rodney Lawrence, 4650 Riverbend Drive. I'm gonna let the other folks handle this traffic, but let it be known that I feel the same. Riverbend is way too narrow. Kennewa is even way too narrow. That's what I have to say about that. My issue is having dealt with 250 to 500 year event storms in 2013 in the property management field. I really am afraid of getting water runoff from that subdivision at Mulker and Riverbend. The reason being, we get water down Riverbend, comes around the corner. Because of the grade of Mulker, it gets forced to the west into the existing drain line, or, I'm sorry, ditch. Okay. Then that runs along my property line to the south, comes up in my neighbor's yard on Mulker. All there is an 8-inch lateral running to a catch basin on the other side of the street, on the east side. 8-inch. We've had water sitting in those yards for up to 24 hours before it's drained off. So please, make sure what happens on the north side of Riverbend stays on the north side of Riverbend. Because as far as I'm concerned, the drainage issue on the south side is way too underdeveloped. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none?
Can I speak, please? My name is Joel DeVries. I live at 1539 Ferndale. It's down the hill from that pond they're putting in there. I have two concerns that have already been brought up, but I thought I'd speak to them anyways. Number one is traffic. I have 5 kids that walk to the schools here, both ways. They walk to Hope and to Covenant. And during the school year, the traffic is not good. And I would have a real concern with that many more people driving through the neighborhood, especially during school hours. The kids at Covenant fly through the neighborhood already, and I'm worried about more cars with those kids. I know of at least 2 kids that have been hit by cars on Riverbend and on Ferndale already. Thankfully, there was no serious injuries, but who's to say it wouldn't happen again? Another concern I have is like I said, I'm right down the hill from that pond. And I have had issues with water in my basement over the years. And that happened in this year because it's been dry. But I'm concerned that with all that building, and especially that big pond there, that I'm gonna start having problems again. I don't know if I have a water table or if there's a spring under there, but there's some issue with water. And I know other people down Ferndale have had it as well, so. And then the third thing, I haven't heard anybody mention it, but there's an oil well out in that field. And I just wonder what's going to happen to the oil well, if it's going to be taken out, and if there's any concern with cleanup of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Hi, I'm Andrew Hall. I live at 4714 Fenwood, Fenwood and Kennewa. And I just want to reiterate, you need to do something about sidewalks if you're going to put more traffic in there. It's a dragway on Kennewa. If anything happens on Wilson, Kennewa is 65 miles an hour. And you have these people coming out either end of this development. It was mentioned before, during school time, there are a lot. I'm saying 80 kids walking down either Fenwood, or some of them are daring to walk down River Bend. there's a lot of kids walking to the grade school and the high school. And yes, there's a lot of traffic coming in there for the high school. Yes, they're coming in off of Wilson. But they too realize you can't make a left turn on Wilson into the school parking lot, so a lot of them turn left at Burton, come down Burton, and then come down Kennewa and either turn on Riverbend or Fenwood. So if you're gonna do something, really you need to stop back and say, we need to put sidewalks or something, widen Kennewa, or widen Riverbend, widen Fenwood, whatever you have to do, but you need something to get those kids off the road then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good point.
Eric Kelly, 1470 Kennewa. My big question is about water. This land theoretically has never perked. I understand there's pre-approval. I don't understand what's technically changed or how the process of getting that permit happened, whether it was testing each individual lot or did they perk one spot. The other concern that I have is drinking water. On top of everything else that's been brought up here tonight. We have a very deep well and a very expensive 5-piece RO system that barely meets drinking water requirements. So I'd like to know what all this property that backs up to my property will do for my water amongst everybody else. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Grant Miller, 1522 Ferndale. Regarding traffic, a couple churches, the schools. One thing I'd like to point out is Wilson Avenue, which I believe is under MDOT. Several years ago, when we reviewed this for the 34, we had learned that it was over double the capacity then. I don't know what the statistic is now, but I see it in my daily commute that a lot of people are using the likes of Riverbend and Hall and whatnot just to circumvent that traffic. So in addition to the bikes, the schools, the people that are normally congregating and traversing the neighborhood, there's additionally hundreds, perhaps an extra 1,000 cars throughout the course of the day. Some of them starting at the top of the hill at Burton and then kind of gaining that speed on the straightaway of Kennewa. So.
Thank you.
You're right.
If I could, before you close the public hearing, we did receive one public comment that came to staff. The board all got a hard copy of that. It is from Anthony Cadsben at 1464 Ferndale. He writes to strongly oppose the rezoning and the redevelopment. Traffic was one of the major concerns, very similar to what was discussed here. Also concerns about environmental risks from water runoff, water quality issues, and the loss of green space and the strain on infrastructure. So he is against the project, and I wanted to make sure that was summarized for the record. And once again, the board has the full comment, and this will be included in the minutes.
Thank you, Paul.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Scott, support by Rob, to close the public hearing. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Again, we're at a point where we've got two decisions this evening. One with regard to the rezoning, and the other relates to the site condominium plan that's been submitted. And we've had a number of comments come forward, and I've just made note of a few of those, just to get some feedback, perhaps from the applicant as well as staff. In terms of this type of a project, is there a threshold at which a traffic analysis will be required of the applicant?
It's really up to the planning commission. You know, one phase of a plat typically isn't gonna make any huge triggers, but I think what we heard here, in the proximity of the school and the churches and this very desirable neighborhood is the real need is, I think, the sidewalk and, the buffer space for the pedestrians. That's what we kind of, watched over the years. We've reached out a couple of times with, funding opportunities to all the school districts in the city, like safe routes to school. Nobody really wants to bite on those, but that's like a low hanging fruit kind of funding source. Terry, I know you're familiar with it as well. But if you were to require a traffic study, I don't think it's going to trigger anything meaningful in terms of like a traffic signal at Riverbend and Wilson. The center turn lane there is really the critical thing. I don't think MDOT's going to bite on anything that would add another stop, which tends to cause more accidents anyway. You know, Kennewick was another issue that it could be worthy of some more discussion because it's a narrow road, it's low volume. It's really up to you.
No, it's not. It's not low volume. It's heavy.
We know. If you went, this is city engineer, he has knowledge of the requirements now, which you see as very busy on a larger scale. A local road has much less traffic than you would with one's Riverbend, for example, has a cluster street. It's going to have a little bit more than, say, the other local streets. And obviously, MDOT responsibility on Wilson is yet another layer.
Yeah, Wilson's terrible too.
With regard to compliance with the master plan, Paula, what is the units per acre associated with the class, the designation for this area?
Their density, so when you look in the master plan at the neighborhood preservation, and on page 40 of book 2B of the master plan, in case anybody, or like online or anything wants to follow along, design guidelines included in that: lot dimensions consistent with surrounding character, lot widths consistent with surrounding character, building setbacks consistent with surrounding character, building heights, etc. All the master plan says consistent with surrounding character, and with the appropriate zone districts, there is a list. I will read it in its entirety right now. 1, keep current zoning. 2, or rezone is necessary to keep consistency with surrounding use of the following districts: A, residential; SA, suburban residential; and S, suburban residential. It is my opinion, I stand by my report, that the rezoning request is consistent with the master plan.
All right, and I believe you're looking at 27, proposed 27 housing units on just short of 19 acres. It was a little less than 2 units per acre in terms of the gross density, I believe. But I may be speaking on a turn now.
The zoning ordinance has allowable housing density by zoning district. This is section 10.02. For the SA district, that is 3.67 units per acre maximum. This is well below that.
And I think in this case,
It's not what it's zoned.
In this case, lost my train of thought there.
It's under the current AA zoning, as we hear, that is, the minimum lot size is 1 acre, so the density there is 1 unit per acre. That is the difference. And regarding the rezoning to SA, the SA district is 3.67.
Okay. Existing density. The applicant, notation was made, and I think there was a note on the, one of the exhibits of the oil well. What is the status of that and plans for it?
Dale Parenter, GTB Homes. The oil well and that will be removed, and so will not only the rig, but the well itself, all per Eagle requirements. It's scheduled out in a few months or so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It'll all be removed.
There was a comment offered as far as not wanting to have a pond in your backyard as a result of this. We will look to the applicant's civil engineer. Is that intended to be a dry detention area or wet?
Yeah, two things about that pond. It is not meant to be a wet pond, it's meant to be a drain dry pond. So other than when it rains, it'll be a dry detention basin. And then secondly, there is a fair amount of runoff that comes from the west to the east towards those homes that are along Ferndale, and that'll be cutting off a fair amount of that drainage. So we see it as something that'll benefit the area from a drainage standpoint.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, I haven't put you on the spot. If you could offer some comments concerning the discussion.
Well, being that this is a rezoning request, and just some basic things that appear on the surface, as SA, it fits with the master plan. There's the neighborhood preservation designations, it seems to fit with that. It's surrounded by light properties. We're not asking this piece of property to do something that the surrounding neighbors are not subjected to. Yeah, there's a few units in there. There's going to be a number of properties, one out on each end. As a zoning request, I don't see a problem with rezoning and form development. Some of the residents have even said that they're not opposed to seeing the land develop. Whether this is the final plan or this is set in stone, I don't know about that, but to rezone it for residential, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Mark?
I got a list here. Couple things were said during public comment. I would mind some staff clarification on. One of them was the designation of Riverbend as a neighborhood connection. Is that a formal designation?
I can tell you the difference between major and local is I don't believe it's on the major road system. So we don't get, like I was just looking up the traffic counts on it, we don't get traffic counts on it. And it's not eligible for any kind of grant money. So that's a pretty big impediment, unfortunately.
Let's see, and you know, I'm newer on the board, so I want to make sure I understand some of these words in the master plan correctly. The reading of the master plan here seems to be that preservation means the existing developed use. Of course, this land is itself part of the existing character. Does that then need to be preserved, or what's the intention when these words are written? Paul, I see how you, I'm agree from your conclusion how you were interpreting it, but when the master plan is being written and discussed, if we would talk to those people and those residents present at that meeting, I'm looking at this from a satellite view, and I see in this area lots of intermixed, residential and rural lots like this. So depending on how you look at it, this could be not preservation.
I didn't speak to my interpretation. I was not here at Walker when this section of the master plan was developed, although several of our members were. Maybe they can recall more of the intent or discussion at that time. It specifically says in the master plan that undeveloped land within neighborhood preservation areas should be developed with a similar character and density to surrounding homes or acquired by the city as new park space. So my interpretation of the neighborhood preservation designation within the master plan community character section is that the undeveloped land within the neighborhood preservation area should be developed with a similar character and density to surrounding homes. In this case, there are some large lot, single-family homes. There are also neighborhood scale, single-family, smaller single-family lot size homes in the area. As we talked about at the beginning during my presentation, the difference between S and SA is narrow. It's a fine difference. In this case, the surrounding neighborhood, the existing neighborhood there was developed before there was public water there, so the S designation was appropriate. There is now water, so the SA designation is the one that would be best fit, because there is one but not both of the major public utilities in the area.
Okay, thank you. I missed that little undeveloped portion at the beginning of that, so that definitely answers my question there. It seems like this is in keeping with the master plan in this regard. Kind of echoing what I heard here and what Scott said, it does seem like the lack of sidewalks here is something that would exacerbate an already existing problem. I'm not sure how we can work that into this. I don't think it's possible, but that looms pretty large, honestly.
Thank you, Mark. Rob?
Well, I make a distinction in my mind between the rezoning and the site condo review. I think it is consistent with the master plan and rezoning. But so maybe I can limit my comments to that. I think it is consistent with the master plan and I can support rezoning. I struggle, however, with the site condo for a couple of reasons. I still am disturbed by the 90 degrees. I know when I asked Rick, it wasn't done simply to maximize the number of lots, but in my mind, I think there's an element of that. I don't think the city, if it were designing or laying out a street, the connector street, would design it with two 90-degree angles. And then when I combine that with the drainage, I was looking again at the comments from the county health department. I think they're inviting, let's see, department requests, new land division evaluation requests, pay the associated fees. If they had a huge problem with 34 lots, this is somewhat lower, but it still is an issue in my mind. And then the traffic, I know we can't lay on the shoulder of the developer the issues with Wilson Avenue. They can't fix all the ills, but I think we've heard from the surrounding neighbors that traffic is an issue. We've got some safety concerns with children going to and from the school, and I couldn't justify allowing development with SA, but I think we should try to minimize the exposure to the children, and if redesigning it a little bit to soften those 90 degrees, and even if it results in a lower number of lots, I think that we're doing what we can to protect the surrounding neighborhoods and the children and so forth. So on the rezoning itself, I'm fine. On the site condo, I guess I'm still in trouble.
Thank you, Rob.
I agree, a lot with what Rob just said. The rezone is not an issue for me, but that being said, not to speak for the city commission, but it's their policy to not allow for a rezone if there's not a corresponding approved project or recommended project coming from the planning commission to go along with that rezone. So in other words, even if the majority of this board were to recommend a rezone, but to not recommend approval of this particular project, then the city commission will not, in all likelihood, approve that rezone. The rezone itself, I'm fine with a rezone from agricultural to single family, but I do tremendously struggle with this proposed project. The layout of that road network is just untenable to me. Those two extreme 90-degree turns at very close proximity. It's a safety concern for police, fire, EMS, other, DPW trucks, you name it. And again, to echo what Rob said, it's perhaps a little unfair to lay at the feet of the developer and applicant all the surrounding issues in this particular area as far as traffic and safety and the current layout. It cannot be ignored at the same time. So if they were to come back with a more reasonable road layout, fix some of these issues with an updated plan as far as grading is concerned and potential things that can be done to mitigate possible water in the area, that would perhaps be beneficial for everybody, but as it is right now, I struggle.
Thank you, Scott.
Chair, may I?
Yes.
I apologize for interjecting, but I want to clarify the point regarding the rezoning in the city commission. That request is specific to planned unit developments because of the flexibility involved in the planned unit development zone districts. They need to, the city commission's request that they only come with an approved PASP, and that is that those are tied together in the zoning ordinance itself. A straight rezoning such as this to one of our straight non-planned unit development districts is not tied in the ordinance in any way to an approved plan. And so I would caution the board from tying those together where the ordinance legally does not.
Thank you for clarifying. My apologies.
Thank you, Paul. Chief?
You brought up a good point there, Scott, and I think we've seen similar projects, at least in my time here before on the commission. And similarly where, there's not a whole lot of objection to rezoning, it's just the site plan presented before us could use some tweaks. So similarly to my colleagues here, I don't see a huge issue in doing the rezone, but going back to the drawing board here, redoing the drainage and grade work can be tweaked. Again, similar when we bring in the fire trucks, delivery trucks, parking on the streets here. If this is going to be supposedly a city streets, not comfortable again with those 90-degree turns and softening those up for the neighborhood and for the area here. One thing I wanted to mention in terms of kids walking on the streets, I had an opportunity to both live and grow up in the city and country at the same time. And that this neighborhood here reminds me of when I lived in the city, and Riverbend reminds me of growing up out in the country. Firstly, my folks would never allow me to walk Riverbend, something like that, and kids should not be walking that. The other street I'm unsure about, but if it seems unsafe, don't have your kids walking it. And if there's an opportunity in the future to have sidewalks being put in, then I'm all for that. But not for putting kids in unsafe situations. Lastly, I'm not a developer, but I have worked with many developers through my career. And, if they haven't reached out to you folks, and this is no requirement I'm putting out, but it's just probably in their best interest to reach out to neighbors in the area, get their 2 cents on the project too. Here with the commission, we try to develop better areas and things that make the city of Walker better, more hospitable for our area, and make better placeholders for our communities. And we want people to live here. We want the community to grow, and yeah, we want folks to be happy with the neighborhoods they live in, new neighborhoods coming in. So it might be a beneficial thing for the developer to reach out to neighbors and work and showcase a little bit of ideas with them, and work with them a little bit more. So.
Thank you. John?
Well, I agree with kind of the comments here that the other commissioners have talked about, particularly the rezoning and the consistency with the master plan. I don't have any issues with that. The concerns about the traffic and whatnot, they sound awfully familiar when we talk about Richmond and Wilson or something else. So I don't know how to solve that. I'm thinking that a reduction in the proposed density, would maybe go a long way with that, and maybe even the feel of that in terms of the adjacent properties and whatnot. But other than that, I echo the other comments.
Joe?
Well, I'm a pediatrician, so I hear your pleas. And it seems like we can fix the sidewalks. And generally, who pays for the sidewalks? The landowner pays for it. So maybe we could all get together and work on something like that. I agree with that. I agree with the other things they're saying, but I think the sidewalk can be fixed.
Okay, my perspective on this, the questions with respect to the rezoning, I do believe that it's a reasonable request and generally consistent with the master plan. In terms of a roadway design, I don't have as much heartburn with the fact that that would have a traffic calming feature to that. And it's a case where I respect my fellow commissioners, and I would not be opposed if there was if that was a factor in terms of action taken on the site plan. Couple of things about the development that they are proposing. They are proposing sidewalk on both sides of the new street. And to the extent that there's frontage for lots 13 and 14 on Riverbend, sidewalk would be part of that, the improvements required of the developer in this particular case. Scott Connor, the city engineer in the city's capital improvement program, is there any within the next 5-year period designation for sidewalk in this area of the community?
Well, Joe put it kind of bluntly, but I think that's, unfortunately, when you get to local streets, the city generally, we couldn't afford to go out and build sidewalk in front of everybody's homes throughout the city. It's just impossible. And I remember back to Rob's days as mayor, where we really kind of fought with this, and we said if we want to expand that network in some of these existing neighborhoods, we're probably going to have to look at special assessments to do it. What we've done since then is we filled in a lot of small gaps here and there, and we've got the major road network really under control for the most part. I think we're doing really well. South Walker's different because it's still developing, but it'd be difficult to start going into neighborhoods like this and just throwing down sidewalk everywhere unless there was a pointed concern that we were working on. And to me, your safe routes to school is a great avenue to go down, but the school has to lead that. The city can't lead that. We can come in and be an agent for them, but they have to put together, there's some things that they have to do, putting together a plan. And the schools haven't been too interested in that. They kind of want to do their own thing.
Thank you. So as we're going through this, I sense that there's general support for the rezoning. There's concerns about the plan. If I may, I'd like to ask the applicant if, given the discussion here, if they have any additional comments from the project that they've submitted to us.
Well, with the site design and the roads, you know, I've been doing this for 30-some years, and the easiest way to slow down traffic is 90-degree bends. Now, with free-flowing or curvature roads, usually, every once in a while, I go out and test them with my truck and see how fast they can go before anybody's built there. And normally I can hit 45, 50. And a couple of ones in the development I live in, I hit a little over 60 in a short distance like that. That's why we do 90-degree bends. But
Please don't do that again.
so I'm just telling you that, you know, 90-degree bend is what slows traffic down. We can take a look at the site plan if you want us to take a look at the grading and some of the other comments that were made in regards to the site plan. We'll take a look at that. But if you could move or look, if you just deem that you can move forward with the site rezoning, that'd be great. And then we'll look at the site plan and that a little bit further.
Okay, if I'm interpreting what you said correctly, you're looking at comments on the drainage and the like.
Yeah.
But would it also include taking a look at the curvature on the roadway?
We'll take a look at it. It's just, I have a concern, you know, we talk about safety and traffic speeds. The easiest way to slow down is make them 90-degree bends. And like I said, when we do the curvatures, I usually test them because I want to see how they flow, and we design it because I've been doing this for 30-some years. And so we'll take a look at it, but I know there was some grading issues and some other things too, and we'll take a look at those over the next week or so.
Okay, thank you. Rob?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I like that idea, and that would give us an opportunity. I'd like to maybe flag it for DPW and the fire department, and they may, and maybe the police department, they may share the view that the gentleman has just expressed, that actually these are safer because it's going to, almost by definition, it's going to slow down the traffic. I'm looking at it from, you're going to have big vehicles in there, they need to have access for public safety, and maybe, in my mind, maybe I'm missing something, and I know they've all had an opportunity to take a look at it in the site plan review, but I feel more comfortable to say, well, the planning commission is focused on these 90 degrees, and we really would like you to think about it. Is this a public safety concern? Or maybe the police department will say, no, it'd be great. We'd love to see all kinds of 90 degrees so that it's going to slow down the traffic. So personally, I would be fine with, it sounds like the applicant prefer that we approve the rezoning request and then table the site plan condo, which to me makes sense because I'm very comfortable with the rezoning. And that would give us some more input from our departments. The applicant can look at it, and I think the drainage issues are still there and are concerning, but then they can take a look, maybe we can do some tweaks to address some of those. So that's, to me, it seems like a rational way to proceed.
I agree. Well, we'll follow up. Thank you.
I generally agree. Couple questions, largely for Scott here and Paula. We heard from the applicant that these corners meet a city standard. And I guess I'm a little not quite clear how it is if they meet a city standard, then they can be a potential issue. Is this an old city standard that needs to be updated yet? What is that?
So we added, just recently in the last couple of years, we added a 90-degree angle road detail because a lot of these developers are pushing that. And it was very uncomfortable. We don't want to have situations with these heavy trucks going by. We don't want to deal with the no parking and all the other stuff that comes with it. So as a last resort, I think we jokingly call it the wounded knee. It has a bigger socket or kneecap, if you can think, around the corner because you need it. Because two cars passing each other is uncomfortable. And if two cars passing each other is uncomfortable, it obviously slows people down. If it's one car going around the corner, it's not as uncomfortable, and it's just going around the corner fast. I think these two together are more problematic, but I can tell you, I will sit down with fire, police, and public works, and we'll have a pseudo traffic committee discussion on it, and we'll get you back some comments that are exclusive to this issue.
My other question is, if we approve this rezone without the condo approval, what does that open up in terms of what could be done with the land purely administratively?
If it's zoned single-family residential, the zoning ordinance has a table of uses, things that are permitted in single-family residential districts are single-family lots, schools, parks, churches, really that's it. There's not a whole lot permitted in those districts, so those things would be permitted by right. Single-family homes could go in administratively, however, they're limited by the ability to divide the land. That's why you see most subdivisions come before the planning commission and the city commission, because there are two primary mechanisms to divide land more than 4 times. The State Land Division Act has regulations for how often and how many times you can subdivide land. Most pieces of property you can't divide more than 4 times without going through one of the more formal processes. There's some exceptions to that 4 rule. Those 2 main processes are plat and site condominium. And both of those require a project to come before the planning commission and the city commission more than once. And so in this case, that's why it's a straight rezoning. It's limited to what you can do. And anything that's more involved, if a school were to go in there, or a church, anything else, it would come before the planning commission for site plan review. So the board has a lot of oversight, even though it would be a straight rezoning. It would rezone from AA to SA. And then if someone wanted to purchase that lot from the developer and put 3 single-family homes on that entire parcel, they could without coming back to the board. Really, anything above and beyond that would come back to the planning commission and city commission for review.
Great, thank you. Just want to make sure we weren't kicking the door open to, 90% of what we're seeing here without this ever coming back to us.
Okay, some very good discussion. At this point, anyone willing to offer a motion? We'll start with the rezoning request first.
Mr. Chair, I can make that motion. Case number 25-009A, rezoning for 4715 River Bend Drive Southwest. I make a motion to forward a recommendation to the City Commission for the approval of the request to rezone approximately 19-acre parcel at 4715 River Bend Drive Southwest from AA Agricultural to SA Suburban Residential Single Family. Findings of fact, the proposed development conforms to the City of Walker 2020 Master Plan. The range of uses permitted in the proposed zoning district is compatible with the area. The development trends in the area are consistent with the requested rezoning. The proposed development is compatible with the land uses, general character, and intensity of the existing and potential development of the surrounding area.
Okay, motion by Scott, is there support?
I'll support that.
Supported by Pat. Any comments or questions?
We need to tack on anything if they're going to go back and do adjustments to the plan, because then we'll go to final review.
That would go with the second motion related to the site condominium review.
Gotcha.
Okay. Call the question. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now with regard to the site plan.
Motion to table.
And is it your request to table?
Yeah, just table it.
Okay.
Motion to table.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Can I make a proposed friendly amendment to say something to the effect to allow the developer to review the street layout and the drainage concerns that were expressed during the public hearing. If you're okay with that?
Yes.
And the tabler?
Okay, Mark's okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got a motion to table action on it, based upon discussion this evening, and with the specified items to be included in the next site plan we'll come back to. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much for your time, the applicant as well as the neighbors. In terms of a revised plan, if there is a revised plan that comes back, will there be notice given to the neighbors?
Yes, we will send the courtesy notice postcards to the neighbors as happened for this meeting when the project comes back to the planning commission.
Thank you.
And make sure that if one of your neighbors is already gone, you
Yeah.
can pass that along, and appreciate it. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This wasn't. I was gonna jump up and say something about,
What the kid showed me was good enough. Where I'm at, right there where that street comes out. There's a bend, and there's a hill. Most kids come up there and they slide.
We've got a couple of other items on the agenda.
Oh, you want us to go?
Yeah. So if you'd be able to, if you have no interest in the second one, go off. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next item. This is case number 25-011. So this is the public hearing, and this relates to 1920 Northridge Drive. And again, we'll go to Paula Prevey, city planner, to introduce the project.
Thank you, Chair. This project should look familiar to the board. It was discussed as an informational item at our previous meeting. The request is a final area site plan review for 1920 Northridge Drive for a 237,000 square foot industrial building, along with truck docks, parking, landscaping, utilities, and other site improvements. The property is zoned IPUD. It is made up of lots I-6, I-7, and I-8 of the larger Walker View planned unit development, originally approved in 2015. So the subject lots are highlighted in red on your screen right now. The applicant received FASB approval for an earlier iteration of this project under case 24005 in April 2024. This updated version replaces and would supersede that previously approved plan. It is not an amendment to that plan, it is a new plan taking the place of the previous plan. The applicant met with the staff site plan review committee in late June and was provided feedback. Most of those comments have been addressed in the revised plans that we're looking at tonight. A few additional comments for the board. The first is regarding PUD benefits and outdoor storage. I know we discussed this at our last meeting. The requested planned unit developments, the only one for this site, as you can see here on the FASB site page, is the outdoor storage space in the front yard. You can see the dashed line here. So this is the area being requested as the outdoor storage space. It's about a 1.3 acres area in the front yard. Section 6.11 of the zoning ordinance permits outdoor storage only in side yards and rear yards. All outdoor storage areas also must be visually screened to a height of at least 6 feet above the elevation of the nearest adjacent road or property, with either a decorative fence, a wall, or a green belt. And the board is encouraged to consider these. This was discussed at the previous meeting, and I'm going to see if I can pull up here. The applicant provided, it's a smaller sheet, so it looks a little odd on the screen here. This is the outdoor storage area being proposed. You can see this line here. That is the view that we're looking at here. There's a large grade change between the road and this area that's being proposed for outdoor storage. Screening high there is odd and difficult. The applicant has proposed, in addition to all of the required landscaping, to screen with evergreen trees. You can see it on the landscape plan as well. And then there is this 22 feet 4 inch grade, or 22.4 feet. That's how that's read there. I'm trying to look, it's a little small. And then they added, which I appreciate, kind of the mock-up of where the panels would be stored. And so between the grade change and the screening proposed, staff is comfortable that if the board were to grant this as a PUD benefit, it is adequately screened in line with the intent of the ordinance. The board does have the ability to grant front yard storage as a PUD benefit within the flexibility of that process. All right, let me jump over to the landscape here. As you can see, there's required landscaping along the road, and then there's this additional row of evergreen trees behind that, which would be immediately in front of where the outdoor storage is proposed. The second item I wanted to bring for the board's attention is phasing. The project is proposed to be constructed in 3 phases. The board should clarify in their discussion and motion a time frame after which future phases would need to return to the Planning Commission for additional approvals. Final area site plan approvals are valid for 2 years with the possibility of a 1-year extension. Is like the standard in the ordinance, 2-year approval. However, the timeline, you can speak to the applicant about this, the timeline for them to move is established, and it's based on the use of the properties. They're hoping to build phase 2 and possibly phase 3 within a 2 to 3 year time frame. The board, I would encourage you to clarify if the approval, like if there's a time frame on it after which, if they haven't moved, those additional phases would need to come back to the board for review to be in line with the ordinance requirements. And with that, I really don't have a whole lot else to say. This plan's been discussed and iterated on many times, and from a planning and zoning perspective, I feel pretty good about where it's at. So my recommendation is to conditionally approve, but I'm also happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Paul. Commissioners? Rob?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paula, when we approve a landscape plan, is there an obligation by the applicant to maintain? So if the trees die for whatever reason, does the city have the ability to basically enforce and say, hey, you've got to replant these trees because you put them in initially and they all died for whatever reason?
Yes.
Okay. And then secondly, I think what I understood you to say is that absent, if we do nothing, the applicant has 2 years to complete the process. In the absence of that, the applicant is risking that the ordinance may change, the composition of the planning commission might change, they have to come back for approval again. Is that?
Yes, in a typical case with a phased project, that might be 5-10 years down the line, you'd see a future phase come in, and that would come for full site plan review. It's a significant addition to an existing building. In this case, it is a planned and intended phased development in a relatively short space of time. And so the board could say within that 3-year window, as long as you start pulling permits within the 2 years or the 3 years, you're good to go. Because the plan is being reviewed in its entirety at this time. You could also say that, not addressing that at all, is anything that happens according to the existing plan within that 2-year approval is good, and after that, they would have to come back. So I wanted, requesting the board to clarify that for the applicant. You can also discuss the timeline and with the applicant, they might have something to say about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have absolutely no problem at all with this outdoor storage in the front for a fall panel, given what we discussed in the previous meeting about, it's just a temporary finished goods lot, and with all the work they're doing to screen it in. My concern about approving it, I work next to a rather large stamping facility. And the place I work also utilizes some storage in the side and the backyard. And it's not a bunch of nice panels, brand new, sitting there temporarily until a contractor comes and picks them up. Is there anything we can do to clarify what this benefit is if this building were to change hands, and make sure that we don't just end up with a bunch of disused, oily, rusting dyes, stamping dyes sitting out there for years on end?
That is an excellent question. Thank you for raising it. Yes, you can put conditions on that planned unit development benefit in any motion. If a motion of approval is made, you can approve the planned unit development. I would recommend adding that specifically as a condition of approval. Planned unit development, front yard outdoor storage granted, and then any conditions that you feel would be appropriate related to the property and future use or et cetera.
Regarding the front yard storage and the steep slope there, it's going to be screened with trees at the top, there's a sidewalk. And what's the material going down? Is that going to be something that has to be maintained, mowed? Is it going to have trees all the way down, erosion control? What's the treatment of that angle?
There are not proposed to be trees on the slope, and I will actually defer to the applicant. They can speak in more detail about Falk has a unique way of maintaining their steep slopes. I believe they have someone cut them like a weed whip.
But I think there was a special seed mix that's going to be proposed there.
More of a ground cover than a tall growing grass, I believe, is what's proposed. But I'll defer to Justin on that one.
Any other questions? Tom?
Yeah, that's.
Okay. And engineer. I did want to, the graphic that was part of the plan set that was given here, with that detail on the cutaway view of that. I'm perceiving that would limit the height of the, what they do stack there to no more than, it looks like either 8 to 10 feet. Is that correct?
8 feet.
8 feet, okay.
The zoning ordinance has something to say about this as well. If you give me just a moment. And that is something that the board could include in a condition of approval. You could put a height limit on what can be stacked in the outdoor storage in the front yard. In no case shall outside storage of materials be stacked higher than the height of the visual screen. And the screen is required to be at least 6 feet. So outside of the planned unit development benefit, the storage is capped at 6 feet. Given the unique character here, what is being stored, the grade change, the screening, et cetera, you could put a height of 8 feet or something on that as part of the approval.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's no other questions, we go now to Scott Connors, city engineer.
Yeah, my report's pretty easy, so hopefully I won't get laser beam eyes burning through me from both the developer and the neighbors. So if you can pull back on that, Justin, that'd be great. The two big items for us, the drainage, I think we talked about last time with the relocation of the regional detention pond. So there's another step with that would have to go to the city commission for endorsement. And we're working with the city attorney on that. I think there's a little bit of back and forth going on right now with the narrative. Don't have any reason to believe that won't be able to be worked out at this stage. And Justin was just about to get the Gold Star Award, and we noticed some sidewalk grades along the road that were a little, they said one thing and arrows went the other way, and that is kind of important because which way the sidewalk tips here is kind of critical, and so we want to make sure that gets cleaned up, and better luck next time, Justin.
Okay, any other comments or questions of Scott? All right. Applicant, name, address?
Good evening. Justin Longstreth with Moore and Bruging, representing the applicant. I would feel bad if I had a perfect set of plans because then Scott wouldn't have anything to do. So I had to give him at least one thing to take a look at. So on the outdoor storage, just real quick, and in that graphic, the way that Fulton bundles their panels, each bundle is about 4 feet tall, and they are, just based on the weight, allowed to stack 2 bundles on top of each other. So that's where that 8-foot max height comes from. I don't think that you'd ever see, and on their existing lot, you never see 3 bundles stacked high. It's always 2. So that's where that 8 feet comes in. And then as far as the slope goes, we do have specified a low, called a low maintenance, no mow type grass seed mix. So that's what it would be. But Paul, I found out something interesting. They actually have someone that has a tracked mower. So you think like tank tracks basically, where a guy would sit on top of the slope with a remote control and it goes up and down the slopes, and that's how they mow it. So for what it's worth, that's how that would. Knowing Falk like I do, they do like their lawns maintained. I would guess that they still mow that occasionally. It just doesn't need to be mowed like turf grass every once a week. So, but we've talked this project a lot, so if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer, but I don't really have much else to add.
And you'll hear us talk to a lot of times when we have slopes that are steeper than 1-on-3, we say that we don't consider those regularly mowable. You need to have something else to kind of get that done, and this is in keeping with that.
And I just had a quick question, Justin. So all the drainage for the site is going to be going to the proposed stormwater basin, right?
That's correct.
Is there anything, any considerations, I guess, also for, with regards to possible SWIP plan, looking at the environmental side? So if there's some sort of spill at one of the truck bays here, is that still going to go into one of the catch basins here, or is that?
I think that's a good comment, and unfortunately I don't have a real good answer just because I don't know if their process rises to the level of needing like an industrial plan. I don't know the answer to that. I would say that if it's required based on whatever process or chemicals are in the building, that they would have that plan on file. I just don't know for sure if it's required. I just don't.
And just for frame of reference for everyone else, SWIP plan is a stormwater pollution prevention plan.
On the screening for landscaping, the conifers, what is the caliper or what's going to be initially planted? I didn't see that on there.
Yeah, I don't know if for pine trees they measure it in caliper. I could be wrong on that, Paula. I think it's on height, and I think it's either a 6 or an 8-foot planting height to start. So they don't measure the diameter of the trunk, it's the height of the pine tree. So it's either 6 or 8 feet.
That's probably more important than caliper in my questions.
It is by height, not caliber for evergreens. I'm just trying to find the reference. Evergreen trees shall be a minimum of 6 feet in height at the time of planting versus deciduous trees which have the minimum caliber of 2 inches at the time of planting.
Any other comments, Rob?
Justin, I'm thinking ahead, but I'm thinking of conditions. Would you have any problem if the approval was conditioned on the storage is limited to new product that would not be stored for not to exceed 3 months? I think that came up at the last. This stuff's not going to sit there a long time. It's not going to be 10 years sitting there.
No, they want that product off their lot just as much as anybody, so
Okay,
no.
and then secondly, a height of the product limited to 8 feet or less.
I think maybe a different way to say that, we're talking about like finished goods instead of like raw materials or tools or anything else. Finished goods.
All right, this has been advertised as a public hearing, so
motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion by Scott, supported by Jacob to open public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Anyone in the audience that has any comments or questions about this can come forward and give your name and address and 3 minutes for the commentary.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to close the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Well, we've had some good conversation, I believe, both in the last meeting and also the discussion this evening on this project. And wondering if there's anyone that has willingness to offer a motion.
I do have one quick other question. Just talking about the stormwater pollution prevention, I'm certainly hoping that that is not something that would fall to this board. But I do know that the raw chemicals that go into reacting foam, depending on the recipe, can be kind of nasty, and they're all liquids. So to make sure that at some point during this process, there will be something to take that in mind. No drains in the building that are just going to go straight into the detention pond.
And I'm pretty sure they'll have to have an industrial NPDES permit as well in the state, so that stuff will get covered.
I figured as much.
Right.
Yeah. Would it be desirable to have that specified?
We traditionally don't. I can tell you that Eagle has had a closer look at this site than just about any site in the city. So I think it'll get covered.
Okay. Do we have anyone who would wish to offer the motion here?
I can go for that. I'm already unmuted. Based on the application provided, I make a motion to approve the final area site plan for a new 237,000 square foot industrial building and associated site improvements at 1920 Northridge Drive, Northwest. I read the PIN number. Subject to the following conditions and based on the findings and facts below. The applicant shall address all items outlined in the city engineer's report dated July 29th, 2025. The applicant shall provide 2 sealed sets of civil engineering plans incorporating the recommended conditions to the community development department prior to the issuance of building or stormwater permits, with the additional considerations. The PUD, as described by the final area site plan dated 7/2/2025, does continue to meet the standards contained in the preliminary area site plan requirements. The final area site plan is in substantial compliance with the previously approved preliminary area site plan consisting of maps and accompanying written materials. The PUD does comply with the uses permitted by the IPUD district and uses the approval within the related PASP. The front temporary goods are temporary. The proposed outdoor storage area in front of the building will be used as a temporary finished goods storage only. And to Paula's question or suggestion at the beginning, I would say that they have carte blanche for all 3, or can do all 3 phases within the 2 years. Yeah.
And not to exceed 8 feet. Yeah, do you want to height limit?
I wasn't too concerned about that, but if that is desired by other members, I have no problem adding a height limit, not to exceed 8 feet tall.
You can also add the storage on the finished product not to exceed 3 months.
Yes, not to temporary, as defined by not to exceed 3 months.
I'll support.
Okay, motion by Mark, supported by Rob, to conditionally approve as has been described. Just got one question. Is this responsive to your question up front on the phasing of this?
Yes, Mark included that. He said 3 years, within the 3 phases within 3 years.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Call the question. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Now we are on to the next item. This is English Hills Development PUD extension request. And again, Paula, as planning director, if you could introduce the issue.
Of course, thank you, Chair. So I have first a short section from the zoning ordinance for you. This is section 11.02I of the zoning ordinance. That's commencement and completion of construction for a PUD. Construction shall be commenced within 2 years following official approval of the final area site plan or any phase of the PUD. Each phase, construction is not commenced within such a time any approval shall expire and be null and void, provided an extension for a specified period may be granted by the Planning Commission upon good cause shown if such request is made prior to the expiration of the initial period. With that context, you as a board have the authority to grant a 1-year extension of a PASP or FASP. That is what is being requested here. You have a letter in your packet from John Hennessy of English Hills LLC and Domo Development, the original developer behind the English Hills project that was approved several years ago, has been amended a few times. The most recent amendment was in September of 2023. That's case 23019. That PUD approval was valid for 2 years, meaning it's set to expire next month. They say, quote, due to the pandemic, construction financing has negatively impacted our ability to move forward with the project. As a result, English Hills LLC entered into a purchase and sale agreement with Continental 946 Fund LLC. The buyer seeks to amend the approved PUD to support its multi-family project on the subject site. English Hills is requesting an extension of the approved PUD for the buyer to continue its pursuit of the development, unquote. So with that in mind, we have a few representatives here from the purchaser, from Continental Properties, the new developer proposing to come in and take over this project and see it over that finish line. They prepared a presentation, and so if, with the approval of the board, I will hand over to them and let the Continental folks come up and give you a brief introduction and explain their request for an extension.
Okay. Thank you, Paula. Good evening, Planning Commission. Thank you, Paula, for giving me your mouse tonight. My name is Trevor Stadler, and I work on the development team at Continental Properties. As mentioned in the submittal, Continental Properties and English Hills LLC have entered into a purchase agreement for the former English Hills Country Club. And to reiterate and clarify, the owner is the one currently making this PUD extension. However, Continental as a partner, just wanted to introduce ourselves, our product, and speak to our experience here in Michigan. So though Continental does not currently have a formal plan for this site, just wanted to make you familiar with our company, as we have expressed interest in bringing a multifamily development to this parcel, which we believe aligns with the shared vision and intent of the PUD that has been vetted in the past. So for those who are unfamiliar with Continental, wrong way, apologies. Paul, you were right, it's a little finicky. So if you're not familiar with Continental Properties, we are a national leader in multifamily development. We've been around since the late 70s and have since grown our multifamily footprint to 20 states. So a key component to what makes Continental Properties a national leader is our vertically integrated team. So this means that everything from market and site selection all the way through entitlements, construction, and even in-house property management is all handled by Continental employees and my fellow colleagues. Here's a quick snapshot of our Michigan portfolio. As you can see on this slide, we do have a total of 7 communities currently in Michigan. 5 of them are complete, 2 of them are still under construction as we speak. But since Continental is a owner and operator, All of these sites that you see here are fully staffed by Continental employees. Continental's on-site maintenance and management teams are frequently recognized for their high quality of service. And it is because Continental aims to hold these long-term that we incorporate our communities into the fabric and character of the surrounding neighborhoods. In terms of product, Continental's focus is on garden-style 2 to 3 story walk-up homes. One area where Continental differs from our competitors is that we really do focus on more of that townhouse feel, in addition to offering maintenance-free living and resident amenities throughout. Here's a short list of the range of amenities at our communities that we typically offer. Here is a quick image of our clubhouse. Our clubhouse always features a sun deck and pool, as well as a 24-hour fitness center. Oh, apologies. Going the wrong way now. In terms of our buildings, they are designed with 360-degree architecture in mind. So this means that we utilize a varying array of materials and colors to keep the facades interesting from all sides and all angles. Here are, if I can get this correctly, a couple of images of our exteriors. I'm so sorry, you guys. I promise I know how to use a mouse. Here are some pictures of our standard elevations. As you can see, we use a varying colors and materials, and we select those depending on the specific market and region that we are in. So here's a couple of other images. Apologies, I'm trying to go slow so you can actually see them. But inside, our homes feature open concept layouts with quality features like spacious bedrooms, walk-in closets, and in-unit washer and dryers. I have a couple images of those as well. Living room and kitchen, as well as a large bedroom. This was all that I have prepared for you guys today, but Continental is excited to begin working towards a more detailed plan for this site, which follows the character of the previously approved PUD. And on behalf of Continental and myself, I thank you for your time and look forward to working with the City of Walker.
Okay, Jacob asked a question here. In terms of the question at hand of an extension, does not require a public hearing, but it is a case where I think in this particular case, I think you got members of the current ownership of the property are here. And another factor in this are the people that live in the condominiums that have been developed thus far. And there's been agreements that are in place there already. And so, so the request then is to allow them another year to develop a plan for that and for the review and approval of the city. That time frame, is that correct, Paula?
That is correct. I can also say that I've been in contact with many of the Continental folks have been in contact with me. Actually, I have a meeting on the books next week for a kind of pre-application review of their first draft of the plan. So they have looked at the site in great detail and are already doing engineering work and design work behind the scenes to bring something to the board, I believe, this year. So with the different components going in a major, real estate sale such as this, and the approval and the timing, I think that's why it's coming to you in this fashion. If that lapsed and they started over with no, approved plan and just brought their plan forward, that's also an option if they chose to go this route, sticking closely to the plan that's previously approved, which would I believe, be amended when it comes back with their changes, but the board has the authority to grant that. I mean, I know that they're working diligently on this. I don't believe their intent to wait a year.
Yeah, but by virtue of an extension can be up to a year's period of time.
Yes. Yes, you could grant the extension for 1 year according to the authority granted by the zoning ordinance.
Thank you. If I may, those in current ownership, do you want to offer any comments this evening?
I had a couple of comments that I wanted to share, if that's okay.
Yes, please come forward and give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Steve Gilman. I live at 3347 Gulfview Drive in English Hills. And I was, I guess, pleasantly surprised to see what he's talking about tonight from a standpoint of integration into the existing community. Because the previous developer, before it was sold to these guys, I think started really undermining the standards that they had initially set, that so many people from our community had attended meetings. And if here they're talking about townhouses and things that look far more appropriate to the expansion of that property. So I'm delighted to hear that, and I assume there will be other meetings about that. The other thing I would like to say is, I'm not sure, I won't accuse or blame, but right at the entryway of English Hills, we're now getting a conglomeration of trucks and trailers parked virtually just to the right of the driveway. And it's tearing up the grounds and kind of making things look pretty ratty. And I guess my question would be is, does the commission have the ability to at least say, let's try to keep the neighborhood looking good? I don't know if they can go through the gate and access the actual property, the parking lot itself, but it would be super if they could move the equipment out of the actual driveway and into the parking area so that everybody coming into the neighborhood isn't looking at it every day. But thank you.
Thank you. And I guess as it goes, as going forward, as mentioned at a prior project this evening, having a good line of communication between Continental and the surrounding neighborhood would be very beneficial, I think, to all parties that take place.
Can I speak to that? So my name is Scott Sorensen. I'm with Domo Development and then currently the owner of English Hills. We haven't sold the property yet. So to that point, Brad Nabel has worked with whoever your HOA president is. So I mean, we've tried to be very responsive. I know we fixed potholes at the entrance there and everything else. But so if the HOA president could contact Brad, because I'm totally unfamiliar with what you're talking about. So this is good. I'm glad to hear it. So we can get right on it, all right? But, so yeah, we're simply requesting an extension of what has been approved. So no other change. Continental's a very reputable firm. As you know, they've done projects in this area before, and they're well aware of what was approved and very confident they'll maintain the character of what has already been approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, hopefully it's straightforward. Any questions? Straightforward. All right. Is there anyone wishing to offer a motion with regard to the request for extension?
I'll make a motion to grant a 1-year extension for the English Hills development, planned urban development to expire, I believe, September 6th of 26.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Scott, supported by Joe. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. Paula, what's up for next?
Our next meeting is scheduled for August 20th. That's 2 weeks from today. We have 2 things on the agenda. I didn't write them down. I'm trying to imagine what order I had. I believe it is tentatively the return of the rezoning on Remembrance. But I know that they're still looking at different options, so that possibly could be postponed. And then we have the 1204 4 Mile condominium. That's the condominium on the other side of the English Hills condo, and then the development, the existing platted single-family neighborhood off Coventry and Ipswich. Kind of tucked in between there, there's a condominium development that was tabled in the fall of '24. They've been working on it since then. Or their initial request was that, it's been a while, but that's coming back after the work they've been doing with the English Hills condominiums on cross-access. So another residential development, probably a full room of neighbors ahead. And that's what I've got for you.
You know, Terry, if I could jump in too, I was talking to the mayor probably 6 months ago about the makeup of this group and the huge turnover that we've been through. You guys are all doing a fantastic job with the independent thinking and asking good questions, not being afraid to kind of go out on a limb a little bit. It's difficult to put that all together, and you guys have got a great group here.
So the new guys are doing a good job talking. Yeah, thought we should have done more of that before. Yeah, doing a good job.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. We have to move to adjourn?
God. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Adjourned.
Let's go home and go to bed and get back here.
I know. Thanks, Scott.
See you later.
You know, Scott,